Well, good evening, everyone. As we begin this meeting, I'll ask everyone to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices and remind council that our procedure bylaw prescribes the use of technology during council meetings. It's 6:30 p.m. I'll call this council meeting to order. We acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe, now of Alderville. We honor their enduring relationship with the land and recognize the deep cultural and historical significance of their contributions to our community. As we make these acknowledgements, we also reaffirm our commitment to listening, learning, and working in partnership with Indigenous peoples. In our discussions, we pledge to respect Indigenous rights and perspectives. Together, let us strive for a future rooted in equity, sustainability, and reconciliation, where all voices are valued and all communities thrive. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council approve the April 7th, 2026 Council agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Members of Council have any declarations of pecuniary interest, and if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. Are there any announcements this evening? I have a couple. After the last time we gathered, the next morning, our economic development team hosted a Brighton business brunch, which had a full crowd, sellout crowd. We heard our own team provide updates as well as updates from all of our economic development partners, the county, QEDC, and the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board as well. The comments were well received by the group that was gathered. Later that same week, we celebrated the upgrades to the Brighton Apothecary, which were completed with the assistance of our own community improvement plan funds. And April is Be a Donor Month. So this morning, we raised the Gift of Life flag on the municipal pole on behalf of the Trillium Gift of Life team. And we were joined by folks who had received the Gift of Life in the crowd, which was incredibly meaningful for them and, quite frankly, for me. So those are my announcements. Are there any others? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. The day after the economic development breakfast, Councillor Wright and I both went out to Crammy for an economic development event. Seems like a long time ago already. But it was very well populated, and probably about a third of the room was from our own team here in Brighton. So lovely to see that we were so engaged and got to connect with people from across the county and even in other counties to think about economic development together and how we can make our communities thrive.
Thank you for that. I'm glad that was well attended as well. Any other announcements? So we'll move into the adoption of the minutes with a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council adopt the March 23rd, 2026 Council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have no statutory public meeting this evening, which brings us to delegations and presentations. Council will hear one presentation this evening. The presenter has 15 minutes to provide council with their information. It is noted that language, content, and conduct must always remain respectful. Council will be provided with an opportunity to ask questions of clarification from the presentation representatives based on the information that they have presented. Council is reminded that this is not an opportunity to engage in debate with the presenters nor advance a public policy position. Presenters are reminded that Council does not make decisions during the presentation portion of this evening's meeting. So, Carrie Hayward, Board Chair, and Jeff Hohenkerk, did I get that right, Jeff? Yeah. Hohenkerk, President CEO, both Campbellford Hospital. Please join me at the front here. Might not be. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon. Other duties as may be assigned.
Hired. So thank you, Your Worship, Mayor and Council, for receiving our delegation this evening. We're happy to provide you with an update of our redevelopment. I'm Jeff Hohenkerk, President and CEO of Campbellford Memorial Hospital, and I have Carrie Hayward, our Board Chair. And behind me, I have a great support team of board members, redevelopment, and foundation with us in supporting on our roadshow. So thank you for coming. Next slide. So why do we need a new hospital? The hospital was built in 1953, and we have significant repairs, although we're staying on top of it, but it really lacks modern healthcare features like enhanced infection control, proper negative pressure rooms, adequate heating and cooling in the building. The hospital continues facing ongoing pressures, capacity issues in the emergency department, our inpatient rooms. It's worsening with the population growth and changing demographics. Our inpatient care challenges, our rooms are too small. Most rooms do not have bathrooms or showers. We actually are unable to accommodate visitors in our rooms. Just this weekend it was Easter, and could you imagine coming to visit your loved one on Easter and we couldn't accommodate spending time having a meal with your family just because we don't have any common rooms or rooms in our patient rooms to actually spend with your loved ones. We don't have adequate rooms for physicians and staff to work. Our workspaces are not adequate. Our emergency department, we don't have enough beds. We have tight quarters, no separate ambulance entrances. So if we have more than one ambulance, we are challenged. And we are also challenged with our accessibility in terms of inappropriate entrances, lack of accessibility bathrooms. So if you come with a wheelchair or you come with walkers, you cannot fit in the bathrooms or rotate in the bathrooms. And redeveloping our existing site is actually not functionally or economically feasible. So next slide, please. So before I speak to the vision of our campus of care, I'd like to share some staggering population health that we just received through our consultation. What we're seeing right now is building a new hospital is more than just bricks and mortar. So actually our healthcare system is and will continue significantly seeing a high demand for the next 2 decades. And what we're seeing as a trend in over the next 20 years is a rapid population growth. In fact, in our area, there's 18% of catchment area that we're going to see a growth. We're seeing a significant aging of our population. We're seeing seniors of 65 plus from 2.6 million to actually grow to 4.2 million by 2040. We're also seeing a population of 85 plus doubling in the next 14 years. So this is leading into an increased complexity of our patients' needs and also a rising chronic disease from our patients. We're seeing now a big growth in areas like dementia, diabetes, arthritis, cancer, kidney disease, hearing loss, Crohn's and colitis, and substance use disorders. So people right now who are living with diseases or may come to the hospital with one comorbidity, we're seeing them actually with 2 comorbidities. So we're seeing a lot of sick people. This requires ongoing hospital care, specialized care in our area, and an increased demand. So what we're seeing based on trends is more seniors needing hospital care, more patients with multiple comorbidities, conditions, greater demand in our emergency department and inpatient, increased pressures on our regional hospitals. What we're seeing right now, hospitals like Campbellford Memorial Hospital is increasing a critical role in supporting the health region, not just in Campbellford, but in the region, as in Quinte Health, Northumberland Hospital, and Peterborough. We actually are starting to see that we have become the relief valve for our region. And our new hospital today is not just a nice to have, it's actually mission critical. So I'd like to share our vision of our campus. Right now, we have a donated 48 acres of land, and our new hospital will improve accessibility. We'll have private rooms with full services. We'll have an opportunity to have advanced restorative care, recreational programs. That means if you come into the hospital with mobility challenges, we'll have an area to actually give you more exercise, more physiotherapy, which today we are unable to do so in an appropriate area. We'll have possible new services like dialysis and MRI. And in fact, we'll be able to provide appropriate care close to home. We're also partnered with a Omni Quality Living, which is currently running a long-term care in our area, about 45 beds. They have an approval for 128 beds, and they're pretty sure they're going to have an approval to actually build a 250-bed long-term care, which actually help with our campus of care. Additional support services we're going to see is supportive senior housing, community mental health, geriatrics and senior care, professional offices, and green space for our area. Our timeframe to build our campus is about 6 to 8 years. Next slide, please. So Campbellford Memorial Hospital is actually an essential resource for the Brighton residents, especially in the north of the 401. And also, we are a designated health facility for the Warkworth Institution for both the inmates as well as the staff. Brighton represents a significant portion of total geography and population within Campbellford area. And Campbellford Memorial Hospital is a critical partner in delivering integrated care offered by all our hospitals to help with already overcapacity in terms of their emergency department and inpatient hospital, especially in the Quinte Health area. So we do believe that we play a significant role in this region, not just in the Campbellford area. So I'll turn it over to Carrie on the slide, and she'll talk about the new hospital planning.
So right now we're working with a consulting firm called HDR that sets the foundation for the overall design and to determine the requirements of the new hospital. So that involves looking at all of the specific demographics for our geography, as well as how the hospital is used today, how the hospital will need to be used in the future, the kind of illnesses that Jeff described, and what does that mean for design. So it's done at a high level in the first stage. So that is work underway. We've also started work consulting with various stakeholders, including the other hospitals that we work with, community members, the medical and the nursing staff in the hospital, and others. We're looking at also holding some public meetings, as well as how do we reach out to community groups to have meetings with them to get input from them, because we also know lots of people don't come to a big public meeting anymore unless they're maybe talking about that rail line in Eastern Ontario. So we're actually looking at how do we get all of that information to determine what is the hospital of the future for us, because we have to plan for a hospital that will last 80 years into the future. And ultimately, the goal is to ensure we provide high quality, accessible care. And it also takes advantage of all the new technology that has been changing how healthcare is delivered, but will continue to change how healthcare is delivered going forward. Next slide, please. So in terms of this process, we're under, and a lot of people say, well, haven't you been planning that hospital forever? It might feel like it, but it's not the case. And again, thank you to this council for and in particular your worship, for the support you've given us over the years to secure the planning grant that enables us to do the work that sets that foundation. So the Ministry of Health's capital planning process has 3 big chunks of phases. The first that we're in now is called early planning, where it sets that foundation of need and demand and the programs at a high level. That gets submitted for approval, and then you go into, once you have that, which we expect about the end of 2027, then you go into detailed planning where you're doing all your architectural work and engineering work and the very mechanical, this, that, and the other to actually put in place a building. And then you actually begin construction. So we're hoping construction will begin by 2029. Roughly a 6 to 8 year process as all of these stages. We're currently at the red circle at stage 1.2, and we expect that'll be finished at the end of this year. And will give us a good idea about how big the hospital will be, the kind of programs it'll be able to offer based on that demographic and health system utilization analysis. We're also starting our conversation with Trent Hills because the location is just outside the Campbellford boundary. If you've been there, it's right near the corner of County Road 30 and 35. Needs a slight extension of the sewer and water line. As well, there'll probably be entrances off Northumberland County Road as well. So we're in discussion now with Trent Hills about that infrastructure extension. Next slide, please. So in terms of this, we see and know there will be a number of benefits of this new hospital to our entire catchment area, including Brighton. This isn't just a once in a generation opportunity, it's a once in a multi-generational opportunity given the decades that it will provide service to our community. So clearly there will be a large economic benefit to Northumberland County, one of the largest, other than the discussions now about nuclear services in Port Hope. Job growth, we expect that there'll be more than 500 people employed at this site, which is an increase of 40%. Many of those may choose to live in your community and commute up to work in Campbellford. There's a number of benefits of co-locating long-term care, seniors housing, and the hospital on one site in terms of possible efficiencies. And we know that a new facility will be a significant attractor for physicians and other health professionals, nurses who will want to work in a newer facility than we have now. And that does affect our current recruitment when people don't necessarily want to go and work in a building like Jeff described. We also are looking at how our services complement those of Quinte and Trenton and Peterborough. What are the gaps and the niche that we can fill that will help offset pressure those other hospitals are feeling? And we also are looking at the provision of senior supportive housing on site to support better options and create more options for our seniors who many are living independently that would probably be better in some sort of other kind of independent living arrangement other than a home as they get older and more frail. Next slide, please. So in terms of the financial requirements and planning for a hospital, this is a standard formula of the provincial government. Only 90% of the bricks and mortar are covered by the province. The remaining 10% is provided by local area residents who utilize the hospital. It's called the local share. And in addition to that 10%, the community is also responsible for raising all of the funding to cover the furnishings and the equipment and the fixtures of the hospital. So in all, by the time that is added up, the local share actually is about 20 to 30%. And I know this is something that isn't necessarily common knowledge for residents of Ontario. We are looking at other rural hospital developments and redevelopments around the province to look at how those communities have raised funds. As well, our foundation is already well into developing a detailed plan for local fundraising from individual donors and the communities as a whole, and some of those. And there's a long-term plan for that given the amount of time. We'll have a better idea of what the new hospital will cost later in this year after we have a good idea of the programs and the size. And as you know, doing capital planning in the municipality, the worst thing is to say one number and then it turns out to be higher or higher or higher. So when we come back and talk to you again, I'd like to be able to say we're pretty darn close to a number that may not change. And lastly, we are looking at the ways councils in our catchment area can help. There's actually 11 municipalities, 3 counties, and 1 First Nation. So it's actually quite a heavy community of municipal governance in our catchment area. Should you wish to support us at some point, passing a resolution supporting our redevelopment as a municipal and regional health priority, helping us engage in community education and input opportunities, advocating with us as you have in the past if we require that going forward for some of the approvals we may need to secure, and to also explore options with us for future support. So thank you again, Your Worship, and we're happy to entertain any questions with Jeff.
Thank you both very much. And although President Hohenkerk, you paint a bleak, albeit true, picture of the physical plant. I can tell you that Brighton residents report to me about the incredible care they get when they do go to Campbellford Memorial Hospital, my family included in that. So regardless of the tools, the inside of the building and the tools that the folks have to use, they are well thought of and delivering professional and exceptional care for the community. So thank you for that, because Campbellford certainly is one of Brighton's hospitals, and we appreciate that very much. Members of council, questions or comments for the presenter? Councillor Botwell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to our presenters. Our family also bypasses the other local hospitals and ends up in Campbellford because of the type of care that we get there, mostly for our children. But just wanted to pass that on as well. Very quick question. I see that in I'm not sure which slide this is, that has the mock-up of the site. I am getting old. It looks like there's going to be 50 beds in the new hospital.
No, the 50-bed references to the senior supportive housing that we're hoping to build on site, and those are conversations we're going to be having with Northumberland County. So the hospital today has 38 beds, or 44 beds, depending on the day. They're almost always full. The planning work will help us determine what the new bed number is. We don't actually know what the new bed number is, other than it'll be more than we have. But
Okay.
the 50 is supportive housing is what we think might be a good number.
Okay, then maybe just check your slides.
Yeah, so it was just a mock-up.
Okay.
So this is actually, we want to put some visualization in terms of what the potential should be. So we don't have approval in terms of how many beds are at this
How
point
many
in time.
beds?
So
So my question was kind of going to be around how many beds we have now. So I heard 38 while I was trying to
Yeah.
open up the screen. With the additional demands of our aging population, would 50 beds even be, and I realize we're not talking about 50, but what kind of numbers are we talking about long term? Because if it's going to have to serve for the next, say, 3 to 4 generations, are you looking to really glow it up numbers wise, or? Because I know that this area,
The government won't let you blow it up that big, well, because they have to pay 90%. So it's actually pretty strict. So this work we're doing right now to determine population trends, the aging of the population, but also the numbers and the growth,
Mhm,
that will enable us to plan for about 20 years out.
mhm.
And the government will hold us to that. So it's very much a prescribed process that we'll have to follow. We will be looking to argue for all of the beds that we need. And so it might take some advocacy with the province. But one of the things we're very attuned to as well is that the delivery of healthcare is changing. The more healthcare that can be provided in your home. As we all learned through COVID, all of the technology that can be used in the home or at a distance. If you think about when you used to have surgery and used to go into the hospital for a knee replacement, you might have been there for a week. Now you're there for a day if you're lucky. So the healthcare is also changing in terms of, so we have to build the right number of beds for the services we'll provide. And this year will be really critical, doing all the work to tell us what we think that number is. And not only the number of beds, because it's not only about the beds. For example, one of the things we're actually, and I'll just say I'm personally really keen on, we're looking at this in the numbers, is whether we'll be able to provide some dialysis services there. Because right now our residents are going quite a long way. They're usually to Coburg or to Peterborough. And in terms of quality of life, that's really not great. So we'll be looking at programming, and then we start with programming and then determine what is the beds that go with that. But absolutely pushing that number out as far as we can justify, we'll be trying to do that.
In the map, I believe it was on the previous slide, no, to the oval,
Right,
Yeah.
area.
the catchment area. So it actually was on the next slide. We're missing essentially all of Brighton south of the 401 in that. Is that a firm catchment area? No.
So we actually, we were trying to be respectful actually of Quinte and Trenton, which we know is also quite close to. So it's a generic circle.
Okay.
We know people below the 401 also go to Campbellford, and thank you for the words of support for that. We also know a lot of people come to Campbellford, not only because it's easier to get to, it's friendlier because it's small, but also sometimes our wait lists are a lot less long than elsewhere. Like if anyone tells you need a CT scan, come to Campbellford, because we actually have a very short wait list to do that for sleep clinics and things like that. So absolutely, that line is just a generic line
Generic
kind of
line.
showing the area, and not to leave anybody out south of the 401.
Well, we have quite the retired community south of the
Absolutely.
401, right?
Yeah.
So if you were looking for numbers, I'd suggest blowing up your circle just a wee bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wright.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking at your total ER visits, 19,228. That's a lot of ER visits. How much would you say of those visits could be handled in more of a walk-in clinic type thing to facilitate pulling out some of the busyness that happens in an ER? Because I know some of the other hospitals are looking at possibly triaging people into another space out of the ER to take off that burden. Is there anything like that happening here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So thank you for that. So we don't have the exact number, but what we don't have is a very strong presence of primary care in our region. And so primary care or ambulatory care or urgent care clinics, so that you're starting to see is an opportunity. But at this point in time, we are the default in the area. So everybody comes to the hospital. One, because either you don't have a doctor, or two, you don't have access to your doctor. So right now we are the default. But in future, there are different types of clinics, virtual clinics, primary care clinics that could actually enhance and keep people out of the hospital. I do believe a hospital is not for everybody. And but right now, because of where we're situated geographically, we are the default for everybody.
Thank you both. Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just noticing on the stats, the average daily occupancy rate is 111.57%. Where are the extra people going?
It's great. Actually, our average is actually even more to that today. In the hallway, what happens is we don't have enough beds upstairs, or we don't have enough access to long-term care or home care. So we can't discharge as fast as we would like to, or they're just not well because they come in very sick. So what happens is your length of stay in the ER is long, and sometimes you can stay a day, almost 2 days in the ER waiting for a bed. So that's where you get over 100 capacity.
Thank you for that. And a good statistic, right?
Yes.
If you're looking to rebuild a hospital,
Yeah.
regenerate a hospital. Any other questions from members of council? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council receive the presentation from Carrie Hayward, Board Chair, and Jeff Hohenkerk, President, CAO, Campbellford Hospital, update on redevelopment project and the impacts it will have on the region. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Deputy Clerk, are there any citizens' comments this evening? Thank you. And before we head into staff reports, I should note that Councillor Rowley did send regrets this evening. I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. That does bring us to staff reports, and the first report is with regard to ILF Communal Multifunction Machine. I see that this was prepared by Manager Platensky. So Director Linnon, do you have anything to add or highlight on this?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, just want to add that this was a unit that was planned in the 2026 budget for Public Works.
Thank you for that. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council approve the contract award for the purchase of an ILF communal multifunction machine and associated attachments from Colvoy Equipment through the Canoe Procurement Group for a total procurement value of $505,804 and a total upfront cost to the municipality of $514,706. And that council authorize the sale of the existing surplus equipment via Gov Deals as per section 6.1 of the procurement policy, with estimated proceeds of $15,000 to be applied against the purchase, resulting in a net project cost of $499,706, which is $10,294 under the approved budget of $510,000. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Next report is with regard to the reconstruction of Harbour Street. This report was prepared by Manager Gooding. So again, Director Linden, do you have anything to add or highlight?
Nothing further to add at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council award PW 2026-01 Harbour Street reconstruction to Wallace Street to Forest Drive contract to DeKaiser Excavating Limited in the amount of $1,949,707.40. Inclusive of 10% contingency and the expensed portion of the HST. Is there any discussion? Director Lennon, could you just add a little note about the completion of the current portion of Harbour Street that was under construction last year, when the timeline for that will be, just for council's information?
Absolutely. And through you, the recommended award to DeKaiser Construction would award this project to the same contractor as the previous phase of Harbour Street. And that project wasn't completed in 2025. We do plan to complete that this spring. There's a few warranty issues and some cleanup work that has to be done, and then a final lift of asphalt. The maintenance warranty work will take place later in April, and mid to late May, we'll do a final lift of asphalt. That work will be coordinated with the new project, and it will be kind of seamless transition from the first phase to the second phase.
Thank you, Director Lennon. We can only hope that the snow stops so that people can do this work. Councillor Wright.
Amen to that. Can we just make sure that whatever's happening down there, that Owl Grove Roses is impacted as little as possible for their customers? There is a business down there on Harbour.
So that business shouldn't be affected because this is Wallace to Forest. So that portion is from Wallace to around the bend. The portion of Prince Edward Street was what was causing some disruption for her, and that should be cleared up because that portion of Prince Edward Street will be completed this spring. The only disruption will be that most of Prince Edward Street, I think, will be entirely closed for the construction season.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. We had a project on Harbour Street, and we had the County Road 64 project with the county that also required a little bit of work at the intersection of Harbour Street and Prince Edward. The county the county project on 64 from Harbour north was completed roughly to Stephen Street. So most of the work will take place there with some lane closures. Once the contract progresses past that point, 64 will be fully closed, basically from Elizabeth to Loyalist Drive as the project progresses. But I don't see really any impact at Harbour Street and 64 where that business was impacted last year.
It would just require her to provide some communication to her customers about how to get to the shop, but her actual frontage should be fine. Anything further from members of council? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And the next report is with regard to a petition for change of terms, license of occupation for docks on Bay Street. Director Walsh, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
Nothing further to add, Mayor.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council directs staff to amend the standard license of occupation agreement in response to the petition received from dock users along Bay Street West as follows. The terms of the agreement permit a license term of up to 3 years, temporarily reduce the annual license fee from $500 to $250 for a period of 30 days from the date of notice for existing users only, and the council deny the request to remove the municipality as an additional insured under the required liability insurance, and the council approve revisions to the license of occupation agreement only as specifically recommended in this report with no other substantive amendments. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Go ahead, Councillor Wright.
Sorry, before you go there, I was just wondering about maintenance of the docks, if it has to be kept up to a certain minimum standard, or if it's kind of as you are.
Director Walsh.
Yeah, the agreement does require that they have good workmanship on the docks. Yeah, they're safe and orderly. Yeah.
But also a good reason to ensure that the municipality is indemnified, right? Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Botwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps Director Walsh, I could just ask a quick question. There had been the idea floated about residents who didn't even catch that one. About residents who wanted to put docks in who did not live there. nothing has changed about that, correct? It is just the residents of Bay Street?
Director Walsh?
Through Mayor to Council, that's correct. There are some persons who indicated that they had some long-standing use, even though they didn't immediately front on Bayshore Road. So we're entertaining those, but no new docks are being entertained. They would have to make an arrangement with somebody who lives along Bayshore Street West to afford any docking opportunity if someone's not using that opportunity. But the idea is not to entertain further docks. That's correct.
Follow up?
Quick follow-up. So, each property along Bay will be allowed one dock? So it's to a maximum one per property?
Director?
That's correct. I don't know if the agreement actually specifies that, but that's how we will administer it. There would have to be a real demonstrated need for more than one dock. Presumably, they could have a dock with a finger off of it if they needed more docking space. And if they needed a different functioning type of dock, like one for a boat and one that's maybe, you know, available for kids to play off for, you know, as a water feature, then, you know, they can work on that design to, you know, however they need it. But the idea is to have one dock only, and for personal use only, no commercial use, no renting out, none of that sort of thing.
Your microphone, please.
Thank you. If there is a resident who would like a dock down there, resident A at 123 Bay Street, they could approach them and say, you don't have a dock, can I put a dock in it? So that can be done, kind of like you're substituting in that one spot. If that property owner then wants to put their own dock, is it the position that there's still just one allowed? Or could we continue doubling up?
Director?
Generally, just one is allowed. The whole spirit of the agreement is to phase out the docks eventually. But, that's what the waterfront master plan called for. And then the spacing of the docks off the road itself need to be such that it allows for pedestrian activity along the shoulder of the road, with some clearances from the travel lanes so that it can be safe. So it's meant to recapture the waterfront for public purposes.
Okay, and so the public would then be allowed to still enter and exit the water, just not on the privately owned docks?
That's correct. Although some have said that other, you know, if somebody wants to politely ask to use their dock, they're happy to let them use it, which is very understanding, and it's
Yeah. Oh, and I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that the public at large could still have access to the water, which is
Yes.
the whole idea of that.
that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you both. Any further questions from members of council? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next report is the CAO ongoing report, capital projects update. CAO, we've read through the report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council receive the CAO ongoing report and capital projects update. Is there any discussion from members of council? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have no notices of motions or motions. We have nothing listed under unfinished business, which brings us to bylaws. First bylaw is PW 2026-01, Harbour Street Reconstruction, Wallace to Forest. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton and De Kaiser Excavating Limited for capital project PW 2026-01, Harbour Street Reconstruction, Wallace Street to Forest Drive. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. The next bylaw is a simplified procedure bylaw for committees. It's moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to provide simplified meeting procedures for committees of council. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. That brings us to reports and minutes of advisory committees of council and the review teams and the mayor's report. The only report is mine with regard to comment submissions for the Ontario Regulatory Registry Northern Rideshare Pilot. I hope it's fairly self-explanatory. I have a motion moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council endorse the comments prepared by the mayor in response to the proposed Northern Rideshare Pilot and direct staff to submit the endorsed comments to the Ontario Regulatory Registry on behalf of the municipality of Brighton no later than April 10th, 2026. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Moving on to reports and minutes of statutory committees, boards, and external agencies. The first is the Northumberland OPP Detachment Board minutes. It's moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Butwell. The council received the Northumberland OPP, should say detachment. Detachment Board, January 16, 2026 meeting minutes and report as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And from the Brighton Public Library Board, it's moved by Councillor Wheeldon, second by Councillor Butwell, that council received the February 25th, 2026 Brighton Public Library Board meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Wright.
Just a bit of a fun announcement concerning the library. We were very excited to receive a $50,000 donation from a local estate. So it was quite exciting to get that.
That's good. That's good news. Did you have something to add? Councillor McCausland?
She took the words right out of
There you go. Perfect. Any further discussion on the minutes? Those in favor?
To continue that frame, in the next month, there was also another, I think it was 9,000.
Yeah. Well, and then the Brian talk. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
Sorry. We got Brian talk. Memorial. We got another 25 from them, but then yeah, I think it was 9 the next month after.
Yeah.
Well,
So exciting stuff.
Lots of money rolling in there. It's a place.
they can use it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. And Lower Trent Conservation Authority Board Directors AGM February 12th meeting minutes. It's moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that council received the Lower Trent Conservation Authority Board of Directors AGM February 12th, 2026 meeting minutes as presented. Anything to update us on there? Councillors Wheeldon or Wright? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeldon.
Just as of the AGM, I became the vice chair at Lower Trent, and I've been working. The new chair is Sherry Hamilton, and we will be working together on managing the transition. We'll say Sherry has been appointed to represent Lower Trent on a transition committee of sorts, which I think will funnel all input moving forward for what the new regional conservation authorities will look like. And I will, I guess, be her second.
Well, thank you for that. I trust you won't let the power go to your head. Any further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? That motion is carried. That brings us to correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, and petitions. The only item here is from the Ontario Medical Association. And I have a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council support the request from Bianca Turchiero, Ontario Medical Association, for the illumination of the Brighton Memorial Park stage on May 1st, 2026 in celebration of National Doctors' Day. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And we carry on to FYI correspondence. The first comes from Codrington Community Association. It's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive for information the March 2026 Codrington Community Association newsletter. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And from our friends at CN, it's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive for information the CN Notice Annual Vegetation Program. I will note that we did receive correspondence from a resident with regard to this correspondence. I will let the resident know this, but I will forward her information to my contact at CN for their information. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And from the County of Northumberland, it's moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council receive the updates from Northumberland County, March 30th to April 10th, 2026. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Yes.
This is the stats from the Police Services Board. Did you mean for it to be the Northumberland County updates? Or
It's supposed to be the Northumberland County update, but it looks like that's where the stats from the Police Services Board got plugged in. So perhaps we'll bring the actual county update to the next meeting.
I can arrange for that to happen.
Fair enough?
I mean, I did read it and it's interesting.
Strangely enough, we have voted to receive the updates from Northumberland County, and we were in favor of that. So,
Mr. Mayor, I can absolutely just put it back on the agenda for the public's information,
Yeah.
and we can just include it in the minutes as an attachment as well, just so that the public gets it sooner rather than later, if that works for everyone.
yeah, we just bring it. It's FYI anyway, so I guess it's no big deal. But we should probably reconsider this motion and defeat it, given the fact that we haven't. Is that okay, Council? Because we haven't actually seen those updates, and it would be, I mean, I've seen the updates, but Council has not seen those updates. So could I have a mover and a seconder to reconsider? Motion moved by Councillor Boutwell, seconded by Councillor McCausland, that Council reconsider the motion to receive Northumberland County updates. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. So I will reread the motion. And your job is to defeat it. The motion that we're reconsidering is moved by Councillor McCausland and seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council receive the updates from Northumberland County, March 30th to April 10th, 2026. All in favor? Are there any opposed? That motion is defeated. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon, for bringing that to everybody's attention. That brings us to question period. Is there anyone in the gallery or online that has a question with anything that appeared on tonight's agenda? Nobody online for that purpose? Thank you. We have no closed session, which brings us to our confirmatory bylaw, moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Council meeting held on April 7th, 2026. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And a motion moved by Councillor McCausland, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that the April 7th council meeting adjourn at 7:18 p.m. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And leaving here tonight, let us continue to serve our community as we stand united, strong.